growing up, I quickly realized I was a perfectionist, and I often found myself feeling this intense amount of pressure to reach these goals that I had established for myself or reach these standards. And so my mom often speaks of this story where when I was younger, I'd be coloring in a coloring book, and if I went out of the lines of the coloring book slightly, I'd crumple up the piece of paper and throw it away and start again.
Wow.
Yeah.
So even at a young age, how old were you?
Oh my gosh, maybe 4 or 5.
4.
Yeah. Very young. So right away, I would just crumple it up, even if I went on the line just a little bit and start again. So I've always been this perfectionist, always wanted things to be perfect. And I think that's definitely where my anxiety stems from. And throughout the years, my anxiety has only progressed. Moving into high school, I feel like that was really the peak of my anxiety. I found myself in a position where I didn't feel like I really belonged in any friend groups. And I felt like I was misunderstood a lot of the time by my peers. And so as a result, I started to feel like myself, I wasn't good enough to be a part of any group. And I started to really be down on myself. And that's where I really started to experience social anxiety. And that's where I kind of first noticed symptoms of depression as well. Eventually, I really started to kind of figure out what was going on with my anxiety, where it stemmed from. When I started seeing a therapist end of grade 11, beginning of grade 12, and that's where I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. And I think there's a misconception, everyone has anxiety, like there's no disorder for it. But of course, everyone experiences a little bit of anxiety throughout their life, especially, when we're completing tasks or trying to accomplish something or, worrying about someone we truly care about. But in the instance of generalized anxiety disorder, what it is, it's basically when people are living with an intense amount of anxiety constantly, even in situations where, normally people aren't that anxious. So this could be associated with work. It could be associated with school. It could be associated with relationships. For me, sometimes it's even going to the movie theater. I have an intense amount of anxiety leading up to going to the movie theater. My brain is constantly going, okay, you need to get to the theater early so you get to your seats. Okay, but you need to make sure you have enough time to get your popcorn and your candy. Okay, but wait, how am I going to get to, that's my brain. It's just constantly going. And so to have that diagnosis, it really put a lot of things into perspective. It really highlighted a lot of things and, made things make sense. And so that's where I figured out my anxiety stemmed. And then, moving into university outside of high school, my anxiety really peaked again. I felt like I was walking into the situation where, high school is one thing, you get to university, it's an entirely different workload. And so because of